courtroom settled into a heavy silence as the judge adjusted his glasses and looked out over the packed gallery. His voice, when he spoke, carried the wariness of a man who had seen too much. "Good morning. Please be seated. Take your time." He paused, fingers resting on the bench, as though weighing every word that followed. "Before we begin today, I need to say something. This case has troubled me deeply. I've been on this bench for 32 years. I've seen cruelty. I've seen negligence. I've seen arrogance and indifference in all their forms. Many cases have angered me. Many have broken my heart. But this one is different." The judge leaned forward. The defendant's father is a sitting congressman. He represents Rhode Island's 2nd District. He serves on the House Veterans Affairs Committee. He campaigns on honoring service, sacrifice, and duty. Every Veterans Day, every Memorial Day, he stands behind a podium and speaks about what this nation owes to those who served. A beat. He is not here today. He's in Washington. He should be here. He needs to hear this. He needs to see what his daughter did while he was delivering speeches about veterans. And before we're done today, he will. The judge opened the case file. The defendant is Brianna Michelle Harrington, 21 years old, a junior at Brown University majoring in political science, raised in College Hill, educated at one of the finest private schools in the state, summer intern in her father's congressional office, monthly allowance of $4,000. He looked up. This is a young woman who has never known hardship, never known hunger, never known fear for her life. She comes from privilege, social, financial, and political. He turned the page. Her father, Congressman David Michael Harrington, has spent 10 years in Congress, ranking member of the House Veterans Affairs Committee, sponsor of veteran healthcare legislation, a familiar face at every veterans event in this state. Her mother is a pediatric surgeon. The family is represented by one of the best criminal defense attorneys money can buy. Another pause. That is who the defendant is. The judge closed the file. Now let me tell you about the man she encountered. His tone changed. Master Sergeant Jerome Washington, United States Army, retired. 22 years of service. 4 combat tours, 2 in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan. Recipient of the Silver Star, 2 Bronze Stars, 3 Purple Hearts. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. But none of those medals are why he's here today. The judge's voice softened. On September 3, 2014, in Kandahar Province, Afghanistan, Sergeant Washington was leading a patrol assigned to protect a village school. Children were inside learning how to read, how to write, how to count. He took a breath. An ID detonated. The courtroom was silent. In that instant, Sergeant Washington made a choice. He threw himself over 2 soldiers, 19-year-old Marcus Webb and 20-year-old Damon Rodriguez. He absorbed the blast. The shrapnel, the fire. The judge looked down. The last thing he ever saw was the flash. Marcus Webb and Damon Rodriguez survived. They went home. They built lives. One has a child now. The other got to say goodbye to his mother before she died. Jerome Washington lost his sight forever. For 2 years, the judge continued. He relearned how to live in a world of darkness, how to walk, how to dress, how to exist without vision. Today, Jerome walks with a service dog named Apollo, a black Labrador trained to be his eyes. Apollo guides him everywhere, to the grocery store, to the VA hospital, to the coffee shop where Jerome meets other veterans every Saturday. Jerome volunteers, the judge said quietly. The council's newly blinded veterans. He speaks at schools. He mentors young soldiers. He asks for no pity. He lifted a statement from the file. When asked about his injuries, Sergeant Washington said, "I gave my eyes so those 2 soldiers could keep theirs. I'd do it again tomorrow." The judge looked directly at the defense table. And on November 9, 2024, Brianna Harrington called this man pathetic. The courtroom tensed. It was a Saturday afternoon, 30:15 p.m. on Thayer Street, near Brown University. A crowded area, shops, cafes, foot traffic. Jerome Washington was walking with Apollo, heading to his weekly veterans coffee meetup. Brianna Harrington was exiting a boutique with 2 friends. Witnesses testified that she laughed when Apollo stopped briefly at a curb, that she mimicked Jerome's movements, that she scoffed when he asked politely for space. And then, loudly enough for everyone to hear, she said it. Pathetic. The judge closed the file. This case is not about politics. It is not about status. It is not about who your father is or the speeches he gives. He looked around the courtroom. This case is about dignity, about respect, about whether the values we claim to honor mean anything at all. His voice dropped. And today, this court will answer that question. The 2 young women with the defendant are not charged in this case, but they provided sworn witness statements. Their accounts are consistent with the security footage and with the testimony of bystanders. As Brianna Harrington exited the boutique, her shopping bag brushed against Apollo. It was an ordinary moment on a crowded sidewalk, brief, accidental, inconsequential. The kind of contact that happens dozens of times a day in busy commercial areas. Nothing was damaged. No one was hurt. All that was required was a simple "excuse me," or no response at all. Instead, Brianna Harrington stopped. According to the witness statements and the audio captured by nearby security cameras, she turned toward Jerome Washington and said, "You're gross. Get your dog out of my way. This is a shopping area, not a kennel." Jerome Washington remained calm. He did not raise his voice. He did not react with anger. He simply explained, "Ma'am, this is my service dog. I'm blind. He helps me navigate." Brianna Harrington laughed. Witnesses described it as a laugh of disbelief, followed by mockery. She responded, "Oh my God, you're actually blind. That's so sad. Can you even see how pathetic you look right now? Stumbling around with your little helper dog." Pathetic, a Silver Star recipient. Called pathetic, Jerome did not argue. He did not engage. He did what countless disabled veterans have learned to do in moments of public cruelty. He tried to leave. He turned his body away and continued down Thayer Street with Apollo guiding him. But the defendant was not finished. Witnesses state that she followed him, speaking loudly to her friends so that Jerome and those nearby could hear. "Watch this," she said. Then she addressed him directly. "Hey, blind guy," she called out. "How many fingers am I holding up?" The security footage shows her raising her hand, not to test vision, but to extend her middle finger. Her friends laughed. Jerome continued trying to walk away. He did not respond. He focused on Apollo, on navigating the sidewalk, on getting to the coffee shop where he met fellow veterans every Saturday. He was trying to live his life. Then the situation escalated. Brianna Harrington reached out and grabbed Apollo's harness, the harness that guides Jerome through a world he cannot see. She yanked it hard and said, "Does the blind guy even know where he's going? Maybe I should lead you." "Oh wait, you probably can't afford to tip me." Apollo yelped. Service dogs are trained to remain calm under stress, but they are not immune to pain or sudden force. When the harness was pulled sharply, Apollo reacted instinctively. Jerome stopped and spoke firmly without raising his voice. "Please let go of my dog." At 13:22 p.m., according to the CVS security camera at 291 Thayer Street, Brianna Harrington took out her phone and began recording. "This is content," she said. "Blind veteran gets roasted on Thayer Street. You're going to go viral, buddy." And then she pushed him. She pushed a blind man. Jerome stumbled backward. Apollo tried to steady him, but there was nowhere to brace. Jerome struck a parking meter. His forehead hit the metal pole. He fell to the pavement. The footage shows it clearly. A 21-year-old woman standing over a 44-year-old blind veteran, continuing to record as he lay on the ground. Blood visible on his face. A Silver Star recipient. 22 years of service. A man who sacrificed his sight to save 2 soldiers' lives, lying on the sidewalk because someone wanted content. Jerome Washington sustained a laceration to his forehead requiring 6 stitches. He suffered bruised ribs from the impact with the parking meter. Apollo was examined by a veterinarian later that day. He was physically unharmed, but displayed signs of acute stress for weeks afterward. Service dogs sense trauma. Apollo knew something was terribly wrong. Multiple witnesses intervened. Thomas Newen, owner of Thayer Street Books, saw the incident through his store window and called 911 at 3:19 p.m. Professor Catherine Blackwood of Brown University stopped to help Jerome and remained with him until police arrived. The security footage captures 3.5 uninterrupted minutes, from 30:22 to 30:84 p.m. of sustained cruelty. But the story does not end there. At 30:42 p.m., less than 30 minutes after pushing a blind veteran to the ground, Brianna Harrington posted the video to TikTok. The caption read, "Blind guy didn't see this coming," followed by laughing and skull emojis, with hashtags referencing Thayer Street and content creation. The video reached 47,000 views before TikTok removed it for violating harassment guidelines. Screenshots and the original file were preserved and entered into evidence. Officer Samuel Okafor, a 12-year veteran of the Providence Police Department, responded to the 911 call. He arrived at 30:24 p.m. Brianna Harrington was still nearby, laughing with her friends. When Officer Okafor approached her, she said, "Are you kidding me? It was a joke. He's fine. Do you know who my father is?" She named Congressman Harrington. She referenced his position on the Veterans Affairs Committee. She stated he would straighten this out in 5 minutes. She was arrested. She was charged with assault causing bodily injury, harassment of a disabled person, interference with a service animal, disorderly conduct, and filing a false statement after initially claiming Jerome attacked her first, a claim disproven by every witness and every camera angle. And even after the arrest, the attempts to make this disappear began. Calls were made. Pressure was applied. Money was offered. Jerry Washington refused it all. "I didn't lose my eyes for money," he said, "and I won't sell my dignity." That is who Jerome Washington is. And now, Miss Harrington, this courtroom will decide who you are. The judge leaned back slightly and studied the defendant. He had been watching her throughout the proceedings, not just listening to the testimony, but observing her reactions or lack of them. "I've been watching your face," he said evenly. "You rolled your eyes twice. You checked your phone until your attorney took it from you. And when I described Mr. Washington refusing a six-figure settlement, you sighed." He paused. "So I'm going to ask you directly, Miss Harrington. Do you have anything you'd like to say? Do you understand what you did?" Brianna Harrington stood. Her posture was casual, almost bored. "Your Honor, this is all being blown way out of proportion," she said. "It was a joke. I didn't know he was like some war hero or whatever. I bumped into him and he got upset. It's not a crime to be on social media." The judge didn't raise his voice. "A joke," he repeated. "You called a blind veteran pathetic. You yanked the harness of his service dog. You pushed him into a parking meter. You filmed him bleeding on the sidewalk and posted it with the caption, 'Blind guy didn't see this coming.' And you're telling this court that was a joke." She shrugged slightly. "I mean, he's fine now, right?" she said. "Can't my dad just make a donation somewhere and we move on? He donates to veteran stuff all the time." The judge exhaled slowly. "You know what, Miss Harrington," he said. "I've had enough." He straightened in his chair. "Your father isn't here today. He's in Washington doing what he considers important work, sitting on the Veterans Affairs Committee, giving speeches about honoring those who served, attending ceremonies, smiling for photographs with veterans." His gaze hardened. "But I think he needs to hear this. I think he needs to know exactly what his daughter did to a man who sacrificed his sight for this country, while he issues press releases about honor and sacrifice." He turned to the clerk. "Miss Thornton, please dial Congressman Harrington's Washington office. The number is in the case file. We're going to get him on the phone right now." Defense attorney Victoria Sinclair jumped to her feet. "Your Honor, I must object. This is highly irregular. You cannot call a sitting congressman during an active court proceeding." The judge didn't hesitate. "Objection overruled. If Congressman Harrington campaigns on supporting veterans, then he has a right and a duty to know what his daughter did to one. And if he's been making calls to make this case disappear, he can hear directly from this court why that will not happen. Make the call." The courtroom went still as the clerk dialed. The ringing echoed through the speakers once, twice. A receptionist answered. The judge identified himself and requested the congressman immediately. Hold music followed. 30 seconds passed, then a minute. Finally, a voice came through the speakers. "This is Congressman Harrington," the man said. "What's going on? Is Brown okay?" "Congressman," the judge replied, "this is Judge Frank Caprio of the Providence Municipal Court. Your daughter is standing before me right now. She's been charged with assaulting a blind veteran, a Silver Star recipient named Jerome Washington, who lost his sight in Afghanistan protecting 2 young soldiers." There was a pause. "I thought you should hear exactly what she did." The congressman sounded confused. "Judge, I was told this was a misunderstanding, some kind of incident, but that it was being handled. Let me tell you what actually happened," the judge said. "On November 9th, your daughter encountered Master Sergeant Jerome Washington on Thayer Street. He was walking with his service dog, Apollo. Your daughter called him, and I'm quoting from the police report, pathetic. She mocked his blindness. She asked how many fingers she was holding up while displaying her middle finger. She grabbed his service dog's harness and yanked it hard enough to make the dog yelp." The courtroom remained silent. Then she pushed him, a blind man, causing him to fall into a parking meter and split his head open. She filmed him bleeding on the sidewalk and posted it to TikTok with the caption, "Blind guy didn't see this coming." The line went quiet. "Did you know about this, Congressman?" the judge asked. "Did you know your daughter pushed a blind Silver Star recipient and turned it into social media content?" The congressman's voice, when it returned, was strained. I didn't know the details. My staff told me there was an overreaction, that she bumped into someone." "Well, now you know," the judge said. "You campaign on honoring veterans. You sit on the Veterans Affairs Committee. You give speeches every Memorial Day and Veterans Day about sacrifice and service. And your daughter called a man who gave his eyes for this country pathetic. He continued, each word deliberate. She hurt his service dog. She pushed him to the ground. She filmed his humiliation for entertainment. The congressman was barely audible. I didn't know, he said. I swear I didn't. Jerome Washington lost his sight on September 3, 2014, the judge said. 2 young soldiers survived because he threw himself over them. They have families today because of him. And your daughter mocked his sacrifice. There was a long silence. When the congressman spoke again, his voice cracked. I don't know what to say. The judge nodded. I'm going to tell you something, Congressman, and I want you to hear it. Whatever you taught your daughter about respect, service, and basic human decency, it didn't take. Maybe you were too busy. Maybe you thought speeches were enough. But actions speak louder than legislation. He turned back to the defendant. I'm sentencing your daughter today. She's going to jail. And when she gets out, she will complete 500 hours of direct service to veterans, real service, not photo opportunities. The call ended. The courtroom fell into silence, and then the judge delivered the sentence. The judge looked over the courtroom before speaking. There's someone here who deserves to be heard. Master Sergeant Washington, would you like to address the court? Jerry Washington rose slowly, Apollo at his side. The black Labrador shifted, positioning himself to guide his blind handler. Jerry turned in the general direction of the bench, his posture steady, his voice calm. Your Honor, thank you for allowing me to speak, he began. I want everyone to know something right away. I am not angry. I'm not here for revenge. I'm not here to make this young woman suffer. The courtroom leaned in. On September 3, 2014, I was leading a patrol in Kandahar province. Our mission was to protect a village school. Inside were children, little kids learning their ABCs, learning to count, learning to dream. That's what we were protecting that day. Not territory, not resources. Children's dreams. He paused, taking a slow breath. There were 2 young soldiers with me, Private First Class Marcus Webb, 19, and Specialist Damon Rodriguez, 20. Just kids. They had their whole lives ahead of them. When the IED went off, I saw the flash. That white flash, that was the last thing I ever saw. In that split second, I made a choice. I threw myself over Marcus and Damon. I felt the blast, the heat, and then I felt nothing. I woke up in a hospital in Germany. A nurse held my hand and told me the boys were safe. They went home. I asked her about my eyes. She was quiet for a long moment before telling me the truth. Jerry's voice grew steadier, but softer, as he continued. I spent 2 years learning to live in darkness. 2 years learning to walk with a cane, then 2 years learning with Apollo. 2 years relearning how to dress myself, make breakfast, navigate a world I can no longer see. Some days are hard. Some days I miss seeing the sunset, the faces of loved ones, the way light plays on water. But I never regret what I did. Not for a second. He turned slightly, addressing the defendant directly. This young lady called me pathetic. She laughed at my blindness. She mocked me while I was trying to walk peacefully. But let me tell you something, I am not pathetic. I am proud. I gave my eyes so Marcus Webb could watch his daughter being born last year. I gave my eyes so Damon Rodriguez could see his mother one last time, before she passed. My eyes are still seeing things through them. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. A long pause filled the courtroom as Apollo remained at his side, calm and attentive. Mom, Jerry said, turning toward Brianna. I don't know if you can hear me through whatever you're feeling right now, but I want you to know something. I forgive you. I forgive you because anger is heavier than I can carry. I've carried rifles, rucksacks, wounded brothers, grief, loss, but anger is the heaviest burden of all. I cannot carry it anymore. His voice, though gentle, carried weight and authority. I don't want you to go to prison to suffer. I want you to go there to learn. I want you to spend time with veterans, not photo ops, not staged events, but real people who have sacrificed everything. I want you to understand that the freedoms you take for granted, the freedom to shop, to post online, to live your life, exist because of people like me. Some gave limbs, some gave life, I gave my eyes, and others gave everything. None of it was for thanks, for money, or for recognition. It was for something bigger than ourselves. I hope truly that you learn what that feels like. Jerry sat back down, Apollo settling at his feet. The courtroom was silent, heavy with the weight of his words. The judge addressed the court. That man right there, mocked, pushed, injured, humiliated, filmed for entertainment, stood up and said, I forgive you. That is grace. That is character. That is what 22 years of service produces. He paused, letting the statement resonate. I've been on this bench for 32 years. I've seen anger. I've seen revenge. I've seen bitterness destroy people from the inside out. But I have never seen what Jerry Washington just did, standing blind, still recovering from injuries inflicted by this defendant, offering forgiveness that requires strength most people will never possess. That is what a hero looks like. Not a cape, not superpowers, not photo ops, not speeches. A man with a guide dog who gave his eyes to save 2 young soldiers and still finds it in his heart to forgive. The judge's voice softened but remained firm. Let me tell you about service. My uncle served in World War II. He landed at Normandy, carried shrapnel in his leg for the rest of his life. He never talked about it. He went to work, raised a family. When thanked, he said, I just did what needed doing. That is service. And I've seen what veterans carry: visible wounds, invisible wounds, and the treatment they receive from a society that often forgets. Jerry Washington has volunteered at the VA hospital for years. He has counseled newly blinded veterans through the darkest times in their lives. Even after being attacked, even after humiliation, he did not stop. He could not stop. That is who he is. Finally, the judge turned directly to Brianna Harrington. Your father talks about veterans. He sits on committees. He campaigns on their behalf. But you, he said, voice steady and sharp, showed us exactly what you think of them. A man who sacrificed his sight is pathetic. His suffering is contemptible. His service dog is a toy to yank for laughs. You come from privilege, the best schools, family connections, allowance, internships, and this is how you used it. To mock a man whose only currency is integrity and service. What does that tell me about your character? The judge's gaze swept the room. I've reviewed all the evidence, the CVS security footage, witness statements from Thomas Newen and Professor Catherine Blackwood, Officer O'Keefe's body camera, the TikTok video, Jerry Washington's victim impact statement, the prosecution's recommendations, the defense's recommendations. Miss Sinclair has requested probation, community service, and counseling. But now you have heard from the man you harmed. It is time to decide what justice looks like. The courtroom was still. Every eye was fixed on the judge, on the defendant, on the man who had given so much and asked for nothing but understanding in return. The courtroom was silent as the judge leaned forward, looking directly at Brianna Harrington. Some have described what you did as a lapse in judgment, a simple mistake by a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. He began, his voice steady and unwavering. A lapse in judgment. No, this was not a lapse. This was a revelation, a window into who you are when no one important is watching. When you think there are no consequences, this is the real you. He took a moment, letting the words hang in the room. Here is my ruling. Case number PR 34-119A92. On the charge of assault causing bodily injury, guilty. You are sentenced to 90 days in the Rhode Island Adult Correctional Institution's Women's Division. On the charge of harassment of a disabled person, an enhanced charge under Rhode Island law, guilty. 60 days consecutive. On the charge of interference with a service animal, guilty. 30 days consecutive. Disorderly conduct, guilty. 30 days consecutive. Filing a false statement because you lied and claimed Jerry Washington attacked you first, guilty. 30 days consecutive. That adds up to 240 days, 8 months. The judge's tone softened slightly but remained firm. Additionally, I am imposing a fine of 20 of the Lozen. 10,000 will go to the Blinded Veterans Association. 5,000 to Guide Dogs for the Blind, the organization that trained Apollo and provides service dogs to veterans like Jerry. 5,000 to the Rhode Island Disabled Veterans Fund. Restitution of 15,000 is to be paid to Jerry Washington, covering medical expenses, Apollo's veterinary bills, and compensation for the emotional distress you caused. He paused, letting the weight of the punishment sink in. Upon your release, you will serve 2 years of probation, during which you will complete 500 hours of community service. Every single hour will be spent with veterans. 200 hours at the Providence VA Medical Center, assisting blind veterans, helping them, talking to them, learning their stories. 200 hours at Blinded Veterans Association events, organizing, assisting, and serving alongside the men and women you mocked. 100 hours will be spent reading to blind veterans, learning proper audiobook recording techniques, sitting in a room and being their eyes on the page. You mocked a blind veteran. Now you will serve them directly. Perhaps by the end of it, you will understand what service truly means. The judge's eyes bore into her. Additionally, you will complete 40 hours of disability awareness training and write a formal letter of apology to Jerry Washington. to be read aloud in this courtroom at a follow-up hearing. You will look in his direction, even though he cannot see you, and personally apologize with your father present. Congressman Harrington will attend. You will have no contact with Jerry outside this required apology. You will delete all social media accounts for the duration of your probation. No TikTok, no Instagram, no content creation for 2 years. You will live without the platform you used to humiliate a hero. You will wear an ankle monitor for the first 90 days after your release. Any violation of these terms will bring you back into this courtroom for severe consequences. You will report to the Rhode Island Adult Correctional Institutions on December 20th at 90 Hodredam, and you will be released approximately in August 2025. The courtroom remained tense as the judge's voice softened. Now, let me explain why I have done what I have done. This is not about revenge. It is not about inflicting suffering for suffering's sake. It is about consequences, about learning, about understanding that your actions affect real people with real lives. Jerry Washington spent 22 years serving this country. He then spent another 10 years serving his fellow veterans, even after losing his sight. You took from him his dignity, his peace, his trust in humanity, and you did it for attention, posting it online for laughs. 8 months is time to reflect. 500 hours of service is time to give. For once in your life, you will give instead of take. You will serve instead of mock. You will learn what honor truly looks like, not from speeches, press releases, or photo ops, but from the men and women who have lived it. The judge leaned forward. When you get out, you will still be 22. You will still have your life ahead of you. The question is, what kind of person will you be? Will you return to entitlement and cruelty, thinking veterans are pathetic? Or will you develop humility, gratitude, and basic human decency? That choice is yours. I have given you the time, the structure, and the opportunity. What you do with it is up to you. Turning to Jerry Washington, the judge's voice softened with genuine admiration. Master Sergeant Washington, thank you. Not just for your service, for the eyes you gave so 2 young soldiers could live, but for what you showed us in this courtroom today. In 5 minutes, you demonstrated more grace than most people show in a lifetime. You forgave someone who does not deserve it, not because she earned it, but because you chose not to carry the weight of anger. That is strength, real strength, service and sacrifice. Survival. You are honored. This city, this court, and this country respect you. The judge then acknowledged Officer Okafor. You did your job. You arrested her despite political pressure, documented everything, followed procedure. That is what good policing looks like. Thank you. Finally, he addressed the courtroom as a whole. This is what a hero looks like, not a cape, not superpowers. A man walking with a guide dog named Apollo, who lost his eyes saving 2 soldiers, who volunteers to help blind veterans, and who forgave the person who mocked and injured him because anger is heavier than he can carry. That is honor. That is service. That is what we should be teaching our children. And this is accountability. A congressman's daughter held to the same standard as everyone else. No special treatment. No backroom deals. No phone calls to make it disappear. The law applies to everyone. Miss Harrington, you will be led away. You will spend 8 months reflecting on your actions, then 500 hours serving the people you mocked. Maybe you will learn something. But know this: Jerry Washington's dignity remains intact. His service is honored. His sacrifice remembered. No one can take that from him. The gavel struck. This court is adjourned.